What's the deal? It's your boy, Mr. Will. And you are now tuned in to Wilson Block of ThaWilsonBlock, okay? And, you know what I'm saying? We want to put, Judge Ronald Owen Kaye on blast right now, okay? Because he has implicated the law firm that he partnered, okay? And we got to talk about this, okay? Because you see, when your legal partners share the same, entry level, experience, okay, when most of your, compadres and colleagues, okay, went to the same school and came through some of the same systems, hence, the Federal Public Defender's Office in California. Okay, now I want to go ahead and talk about these attorneys, okay, who are now implicated, okay, under mandatory reporting duties in People versus Michael Taylor, okay. This is attorneys under McLane, Bednarski, and Litt LLP, criminal defense and civil rights attorneys, okay. Now, for the record, one thing that I want to say about this is, this is a law firm that has been operating in my neighborhood, okay? They might find that funny, okay? But make no mistake about it, the Wilson Block Network was absolutely created on Wilson Avenue in Green Street, okay? So let's just establish that, okay? I told Vernon Patterson, last year, speaking in regards to the city of Pasadena, that this town is mine, man. Okay, and if you're gonna prejudice me and think that you're gonna just live happily ever after in this town we call Pasadena, just not gonna happen, fam. Okay, it's just not gonna go down that way. Now, I want to talk about these attorneys because there's really no way out of this for them. Okay, they need to lodge the complaint, and their silence has been consistent with this institutional silence, okay, this lack of redress, and when I do get responses, it's deflections, okay, that misframe my complaint, it presents material falsehoods to my allegations to really just demean and weaponized procedure against the process, okay? Imagine that. How are you weaponizing procedure against the very process, okay? We're dealing with a paradox here, okay? Without further ado, let's get on with it, okay? The first attorney, who's probably, the one everyone's probably most concerned about, okay, is Marilyn Bednarski. Okay, big shout out Marilyn Bednarski. I just want you to know, if you ever hear this, that hey, this is not personal, okay? But, you're a lawyer. You have mandatory reporting duties. When you come in contact or become constructively aware of criminal activity, dishonesty, deception, things of the like, of other attorneys, okay? And, your fraternity, allegiance, your political party allegiance, has no bearing on your non-discretionary, non-delegable obligation here, okay? Now, Marilyn Bednarski is, one of the lead partners. We got, Barry Litt, which we're going to expose Barry Litt because we don't call you Barry Litt. We're going to call you, okay, by your actual full name, sir. Okay, Barrett Stephen Litt. Or Stephen, however he prefers, okay? He's implicated too, okay, because all of these attorneys have received emails from me, okay, with evidence of the fraud, okay? They have received in these emails, evidence of, the assessment that violated the court order by Judge Suzette Louise Clover, okay? And then, I've been, sending emails to McLane, Bednarski, and Litt, since before Judge Kaye, remanded me in court last year on May 23rd, 2024. Okay? These guys are not innocent, okay? If they are truly great lawyers that their biographies, paint them to be, then they will uphold their rules of professional conduct, okay? You got David McLane, okay, Lindsay Battles, okay, Kevin LaHue, okay, Laura Francis Donaldson, okay, Ben Shaw, who doesn't have a picture, okay, so I spared him from the dossier, okay, just, I spared Ben Shaw, so just so you know that he didn't get past my radar, I just let it go, okay, but Rodrigo, you in it, fam, okay, and you know what I'm saying, you had a picture on the website, man, and you received the emails, okay, and even if you didn't receive the emails, I have evidence that I sent you the emails, so that suffices, okay, make no mistake about it. If McLane, Bednarski, and Litt is listening, I want them to understand that you shouldn't be held accountable for the poor decisions of your former partner, okay, or anybody for that matter. Okay, let's kind of put it in perspective here. If somebody commits a crime, why should you be responsible for it, right? If you win the lottery, why should somebody else be entitled to your winnings? Okay, and this is just fundamental. Okay, and I'm willing to mitigate. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to work in good faith. Okay, with McLane and Bednarski and Litt. Okay. But we got to remove the prejudice out of our criminal justice system. Okay, if nobody's gonna call it out, I'm gonna call it out. Okay, we have a totalitarian regime in California under the Democratic Party right now, who are systemically and institutionally denying legal redress. Okay, there's a predetermined neglect of constitutional rights because the exposure implicates members of collegiate fraternities who have colleagues who occupy key government offices across the nation. Okay, and this is a problem. This is why democracy, is a threat to the republic. Okay, because it's it's undermining individual rights. I should have been able to walk into that courtroom, stand on my constitutional rights, and didn't need no little quack lawyer, okay? And could have just been like, hey, the charges are in violation of equal protection, okay? You're charging me exclusively where there are other culpable parties, right? Who contributed to the ultimate outcome of events, right? So to just isolate my behavior while I'm the only one with any benefit of the doubt, okay, then that's disingenuous and it's prejudicial, and I'm not standing for it. Okay, I don't care what you want. Okay, let me make that clear. I don't care what the majority wants. Okay, you are all wrong. Okay, and I'm right. That's correct. Okay, I'm right and you all are wrong. Okay, why is that? Because you see, when you have a law firm that has a partner, okay, who joins, who gets appointed to the bench, right? And now, you guys all think that you're just in good company, that, you're close, you're close enough to the judiciary that you can leverage, strategy for your clients and whatnot, okay? But I'm going to tell you something. When the judge violates their own court order and then all the attorneys cover it up, fam, 8.4 exists for that very reason, okay? So you're not excused, okay? None of you guys, okay? And every day that you refuse to acknowledge this fraud upon the court or any constitutional right violation, any statutory violation, okay, by the judiciary and court officers, I will be implicating the entire legal profession. Okay, so when the Vernon Patterson dossier comes out, I want McLane, Bednarski, and Litt to be fully aware that you guys are included in the dossier as defendants, family. Okay, so that's what's happening. Okay, you're already implicated. Okay, we're invoking, PC 31 along with the rules of professional conduct to make your mandatory reporting duties actionable. Okay, even if your, silence, your silence is also, weaponized against you. Okay, so, you really only got one move to make here, and that's to be accountable. Okay, and at the end of the day, lodging a report doesn't mean that you're the judge, okay? You're not the one issuing a judgment here. You're just lodging a complaint that you came, into knowledge of this information, that you understand you have a mandatory professional obligation, a binding obligation to fulfill. Okay, and if you're not going to do that, then guess what? You're going to be subject to the unconventional prowess of a young Michael Bernard Taylor Jr. Okay, so, you better exercise some damage control while you still have, some appearance of control here. Okay, because, the fact of the matter is that you guys have indeed lost control of this whole ordeal. It will not go down and finish and adjudicate the way that you wanted. Okay, and so, you're going to do the right thing here, or I will be your checks and balance. Okay, we're not tolerating, fugazi judiciaries, okay? These phony people under the mask of honorable judiciaries, okay? No. Okay, and it's time that the Democratic Party, be addressed for what it is, okay? Legal insurgents on our republic. Okay, but anyway, that's the deal. It's your boy, Mr. Will. Thank you for tuning in. And, I've been sending these emails to reception@mbllegal.com. Okay. And just have not gotten any correspondence from these people. Okay. Surely, they have received it. They are active attorneys of the bar. Okay. So let's not confuse it. Okay. And that's what it is, man. It's your boy, Mr. Will. That's the deal. And until next time, I'm out.